Hello, everybody. My name is Oleksandr Romanov, and today I want to talk about really interesting topic, from my opinion. I want to talk about problems of modern testing. Another title of this talk that I chose is high tech, low test. So today we are going to think about uh, why we have some amount of problems in our industry, in our testing industry, regarding the fact that we have a lot of different bright and marvelous technologies. We still have an issues with testing. So, what we'll talk about today. The first, we briefly think about what have changed and have not changed in the testing for the last 10 years. Why 10 years? Why a decade? It's only because um, I worked in the industry a little bit more than 10 years. So I wanted to tell about my experience in this area. So the second thing we will uh, see is problems in testing. And together we will think about how we may minimize the impact of from these problems, or maybe completely eliminate the problems at all. So before I start actually to talk, I want to talk about two disclaimers. The first is that all of my talk and information that I present is completely reflects only my own views and opinions, not of my um, um, uh, employer. And the second is information in this talk is completely based on my experience, based on the experience that I see in the various chats from testers around the world. So let's go to the essence of the presentation. So what actually have changed in the last 10 years? The first, we got a lot of tools for testing. So if you think about like 2010 and 2011, we barely have a lot of tools for test automation. We had some of the tools that provide us ability to automate um, desktop applications, in some cases even web applications, but those tools were in most cases really like uh, big and cumbersome, and actually uh, almost all was paid. So you need to purchase a license in order um, to use this tool. And only in the beginning of 2011, and maybe a little bit earlier, there they were like the start of these tiny little useful libraries, open source libraries that we use in our day-to-day activities. Also, 10 years ago, one of the like one of the way how we can test, for example, an HTTP API or something like that was also the tool that you need to purchase, or like a lot of command line utilities like curl, for example, or anything from the Linux toolset. But now you don't need to actually think about and learn these tiny little Linux tools and work a lot um, with these command line utilities. The only thing that you need to do is actually choose one of a lot of options. For example, you can install the Postman and easily perform not only like a single API test for a single endpoint, but also create a bunch of tests with a lot of data in it, and those tests also will be really reusable. The next thing, actually, we got for these 10 years, we got a lot of new technologies and a lot of technologies that were really um, developed. Some of those technologies are developed from the ground, so from the beginning. So we had a lot of, for example, the blockchain systems. We had a lot of systems that use for now data analytics, machine learning. We have a lot of application of robotics, um, and a lot of other interesting stuff. For example, like virtual reality or augmented reality. Also, during these 10 years, there were development of new approaches or transformation of the old approaches. So right now, the word agile and Scrum is not a buzzword for almost all of us. It's like our daily way of work, and as well as our approaches to testing are more tied with the team. So the dedicated QA team for like these years, like in 2022, is more like a exception than a norm. So for almost all the team, they want to have like a dedicated tester inside the team, inside the Scrum team, as an engineer. And not only the tester, but the team also wants to participate in the testing activities. And along with these new tools, new technologies, and approaches, there are a lot of new requirements for a new candidate that only joins the testing world now. Maybe from like just from the university, maybe those people who want to transfer from other areas of work. So, for example, if you wanted to join a software company, like not, I'm not talking about like a really big technology company, but more or less like a mid-size or even small startup. As a tester, like 10 years ago, one of the only things that you need to know is maybe a little bit of testing theory, a little bit of knowledge how to work with computers, and in some cases, it will be a huge advantage to if you know something about command line and scripting. So you will definitely uh, find work uh, 10 years ago. But for now, for trainee candidates and for junior candidates, we have a lot of like a huge list of requirements. So you not only need to know about the testing theory on a really good level, but you also need to um, know a lot of tools that are standard now in the industry. You need to know how to work with databases. You need to know how to perform UI automation or API testing, and a lot of other things. And these are requirements for entry level positions. So the market right now demands people with a lot more experience um, from the entry level. And despite of the fact that there are a lot of things that have changed for these 10 years, there are a lot of things that have not changed. And I want to share like a few things that I hear right now in a lot of conversations with testers, and I heard it even 10 years ago. Or and as I actually um, learned from old topics on the forums, on testing forums, some of these things also haven't changed not only 10 years ago, but even 15 or 20 years ago. For example, we are continue uh, to hear a lot of talks, a lot of um, blog posts regarding that manual testing will be dead. It will be completely replaced by automation testing, and manual testing is a like a dead end career. Also, we have a lot of talks about automation that we want. If any company wants to do something with test automation, the only thing that they see automation is by automating anything and everything that they see, any process, any type of UI tests, or any type of tests, and especially on the UI level. Also, uh, there are still a tendency in the industry that I see that a lot of people, when they join um, testing as a profession, um, they want to learn and to progress in the technical side. they see software developer and test role as a, like uh, the end of the career, that it is like the thing that they want to achieve, and after they will achieve this position, everything will be green and beautiful, and all of the things will be resolved. So the next thing is actually, we still have a lot of people that say that QA and testing, even on like simple UI automation testing, is the simplest form that, and simplest IT job that you can uh, get, and you don't need a lot of like skills for it. And some people who wants to actually join IT market as a developer, they think that they will spend 1 or 2 years in QA as a low cost job, and then they will quickly move to the development. Also, there is like a lot of talks. Actually, if there are no talks about technologies in the testing chats, the second huge topic is, of course, salaries. And there are a lot of myths for the whole industry that the salaries in the QA industry are super low. And if you want to get a really nice amount of money, you don't need to join the testing as a profession. And the last thing, and the most harmful thing that I see in the industry, is all of the talks, not only from the testers, but from other people who works in IT, is that test engineering is a non-technical job. So everybody can learn testing like in 1 day or so, and can go and test any website. It's just randomly clicking around, and nothing else. So we have a lot of things that have changed in the industry. A lot of things have not changed. But what about the problems? What problems that I see in the industry right now? I divided the problems into two main, like big categories. The first is like the technology things and technology side, and the second is like the general one. It's only like a lack of knowledge and skills for the testers. So let's deep dive into each of these category. So the first is technology. So one of the problem in the technology side is I see that a lot of projects, um, especially in automation, um, they're concentrating only on the short-term solutions. So they don't think how the code that they create, how the tests that they create will be used in 2 years, in 5 years. So the only thing that they want to do is to get like a lot of copy paste code, um, like not readable at all, and then prepare this kind of solution, um, pass it um, to the manager, and go to another project. So that's a really not a good thing, not only for a particular project but for the whole industry. The second is that some of the candidates are not considered like development of their skills. They considered only like doing things that are good for their resume. It's not like a totally bad thing, but generally it's actually it brings to the manager a not very good situation, that people want to work only with an up to date and modern libraries. So, for example, in JavaScript world, like for some time ago, I don't think like how it is right now, but some time ago, there is like new major framework released every year. So we had a lot of QA engineers that want to test and work only with fancy new libraries. And if the project is not using fancy new libraries, they will not consider it as as a real project, and the project that worst to join. Actually, if I want to like make a notice that if we have some issues with connection, just let me know, and um, I will repeat things. So the next thing on the technology side, uh, it is really interesting and widespread thing is when QA engineers and especially the team and the manager introduce any kind of automation, especially in the continuous integration and continuous deployment and deployment life cycle and tools. They only concentrate on on the tests that are actually always green. So the ultimate goal of such teams is only like 100% of coverage, 100% of tests passed in each build. Um, and it actually like the bad side of this concentration is if we have a lot of tests. For example, if we have hundreds or thousand UI tests that are executed on different platforms every day, um, the flakiness of the tests, especially on the UI, will always be. And these teams with obsession of these green only green tests and green pipelines, they will start to discard the failures from the tests, because if they don't understand why the test has failed, they will exclude it um, from this like test suite, and the problem will be solved. But in fact, each failed test, maybe the reason of this flakiness is totally like instability of the environment or the test, but maybe there is a bug underneath of these tests. So the tests reveal the issue, but these green pipelines teams will not find it, and it is a bad thing. Also, there is like anti-pattern or a bad thing that can happen to the project if um, the engineers that joins the project, especially the senior or middle ones, that are obsessed with the new frameworks and new libraries, the only thing that they need to do and want to do is actually framework development, framework automation. So they don't want to create tests, they want to create an ideal, extendable, and actually like perfect framework. So they spent like not only like a month or so on creating such framework, but in some cases, a team of engineers can spend even like half a year of man time, half of a year of their work on creating just framework, and for like um, tiny little application, for example, web application. And actually, after the half a year, um, they they didn't write any tests. So in the eyes of the manager, in most cases, and in the eyes of the developers who actually also in many cases it also wants to use the results from the executing of the tests, they just um, didn't see the value that the team provides. Of course, there are some projects that require to create a new and sophisticated framework from scratch, but amount of these projects generally is not so huge. So in most cases, you are dealing with the web or mobile application, and you can construct the framework from these like pieces, in most cases very in a very simple way. So you can provide the tests on your not ideal framework, but you can provide the tests and integrate the test in the pipeline as soon as possible. There will be the value, but not in the ideal framework. And the last thing in the technology is I see some of the engineers that wants to search a silver bullet in terms of automation, especially in terms of automation. So if they created a framework that is like good for one project, they want to transfer it everywhere. Or if they create or if they use a library that solves, for example, a particular task in their particular project, they want to use it everywhere without understanding the context of the following projects. They just want to use it, and as a result, of course, the reusability of the code is a good thing, but the opposite side is actually in some cases it brings a lot of effort, for example, to support such frameworks or such libraries or such automation solutions, because um, you can actually um, implement similar solution with a similar functionality in a much easier way. But if you see only like on the nail, if you have uh, only like one way of thinking, then um, you don't think other alternatives or possibilities. And the second big pile of problems that I see is a total lack of knowledge and skills. And actually, I want to start with the basic knowledge. So it is not only like the knowledge of testing theory. There are a lot of books. There are a lot of courses, even on free courses on the YouTube, that can teach you a lot of testing theory. But the theory on itself is not useful if you don't understand the context and you don't understand actually the technical side of what you are testing. Because I see a lot of examples that on the interview, even mature candidates like with 5, 10 years or even 15 years of experience in testing, they can't explain a simple thing uh, how the application they test actually works internally. I'm not talking about like on the granularity of like assembler code or something like that. It is completely optional. So if you want to learn the internals of the working of the computer systems, it's a good thing. But in most cases, you need to understand how internally like works your front end and the back end. How what does it mean to make a request, like HTTP request, or what does it mean that your application inside is doing like messaging for communicating information with the parts underneath. So there is a big problem. The second big problem is actually derives from the previous one, is actually I see really uh, rarely that test engineer knows the architecture and knows really on the good level knows the programming language. Um, I want to say that writing UI tests and even writing API tests for small and mid-size projects in most cases it will not bring or it will not make you a really good developer, because the only thing that you will see is either like the UI of your application and you interact with it, and from the other side you can think of your backend of your system as a like completely black box with only with a couple of endpoints that you can make a call and get the results. But what happens underneath, you don't know. And actually, these testers and test engineers, they not only don't know about architecture, they don't want to learn even a little bit of the architecture. And why to learn it? Why to bother to learning the architecture and how the things works? Actually, it can help you to create more meaningful automation. It can help you create more useful and valuable tests for your application, because in any test that you're creating, even for manual test, you are dealing with you are exploring the application, and you are providing some data to the application in order to verify that something good happened in this black box, and the application um, um, actually works as expected. But knowing how the system works internally can help you to choose from this enormous or infinite number of variants of test data for a particular test. You can choose a good and really valuable data, and you can choose these data that will cover a lot of cases, like an edge cases, and also you can choose other type of data that will definitely um, take your application down if you know the internals. Uh, you can get the similar results, of course, without knowing the internals, but that will be like a brute force testing. So you just in some way you do some actions during your exploratory or even ad hoc test session, and you just in some session you may discover this unique test data after, for example, like a year of testing, after a lot of hours of testing you can discover. But um, knowing the internals bring you this test data right away.
It's like testing in the dark. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, exactly this thing. So you just you can test, but you can test effectively, more effective if you know how the things works. And the last thing that I also want to emphasize and want to talk about is there are a lot of testers that they want to only test the actually the manual or they want to execute tests without knowing um, what they test, without knowing how the actually what is the business purpose of the application that they work. And a lot of these kind of testers, they don't even know how actually users interact with the application. Of course, there are some in some product companies they can be a support engineers that actually communicates with the users and provide feedback. But in most cases, such testers don't talk to support guys, and they don't know this information about the usage patterns. And if you don't know how the users interact with the application, you can't discover issues with user experience. You can discover them like the most valuable user journeys in your application. You will also continue to prepare. Maybe in some situation, you can continue to prepare a lot of tests. They may be a good test from the testing point of view, like from the structure, but they will test only like the very narrow part of your application. And in fact, it may be a situation that users uh, interact with another part of your application and you don't know about it. In some cases, um, it, it can like bring a lot of these gaps in coverage. It brings a lot of issues in productions, and in some cases, these issues can bring to actually bring your loyal users to choose your competitor, your competitor product over your over the product that you are testing in your involvement in the development. So and the one thing and one problem, also a big problem that I want to talk about is of course personal development of the skills. And it is two sides of people that I talked about, and even on the interviews, one type of people, they they just sit and think about why do I need to learn about programming? Why do I need to learn about architecture or the business side, or even increase my skills? I'm just a tester. My job is just to make the tests uh, pass in the test run, or my job is just when someone gives me a manual test, my job is just writing the automation tests for every step that is in the manual test, and that's all. Or my job is just fixing UI tests day by day. And the second, like the part of the people and group of the people, is that they are just waiting for the performance review, or waiting for some other feedback session with their lead, with their manager. In some cases, these feedback sessions can happen, or performance reviews can happen once a year, for example. Though these people are just waiting for someone to define their development and personal development goals or technical. So they will bring a plan. So you need to learn this tool, this language, and this, and after that you will get salary increase, or after that you will get a promotion to the new role, or you will get something else, or bonus, or something like that. So these type of people, they just waiting for a plan first. And what I want to say that actually preparing this personal development plan in terms of your soft skills and in terms of your hard skills, and actually following this plan and learning new things, new stuff, is completely your part job, your responsibility. So there is, of course, it is a good thing if your manager will go to you and say, hey, we are planning, or we are missing some skills. For example, we are missing security skills, and we need to perform a basic security test for this tiny little part of application. Then you do want to join this initiative, and if you want to join, we will give you, for example, a course on security testing. If it is happens, so it's a great thing. But in this particular thing, um, actually, it limits your like path of self development only to these like occasional things or occasional needs of the project. So we have a lot of things and problems discovered and discussed, and with all of these problems, there are a lot of questions that can be can appear um, in the head of the test engineer. So the questions can be, or not the questions, but also like thoughts thoughts in the head. So first, it can be like, hey, I'm tester, I can't code, I'm not a developer. So if I see this tag trace, I don't want to like learn anything about this text trace. I just copy this really really scary piece of text, and send it to developer without any additional questions. Also, they can be thoughts like, who am I? I'm just a tester. Who am I to talk about architecture? Why I need to talk about testability of application? And if I will talk about it, why the architecture? This um, really senior guy that comes with architecture of the system. Why they will listen to me? Because I'm just a tester. There can be a lot of situations when you had a test suite or some like couple of UI tests, and they start to fail, and there is also a senior or mature DevOps engineer comes and actually turn off all of your tests. So there can be thoughts like, oh, okay, they know the process better than me. They know the tests are bad. So yeah, the tests are bad. Let's remove it. So let's agree with it. Also, there can be thoughts like, I'm just a tester, and my manager is just keeps asking what did I do, what value did I bring, other than just executing the tests. The same situation is, and the same um, scary thing is that business is only waiting to fire the whole QA department, because the business um, always thinks in terms of um, money, in terms of other um, like saving the money or adding a new value. And also there can be thoughts, how I as a tester can know what can be a real user problem, because there is like a situation in my past experience when the candidate go to the interview, and they describe the process, how they work, and it turned out that actually they got a bunch of tests, they got a build, they perform a testing, for example, on the test environment, and they provide results to the customer, and that's all. So this test engineer in the particular project, they don't know what happens afterwards. So how it will be deployed, how it will be tested, they just send it to the customer to decide, and that's all. And it is not a totally bad thing, of course. The projects are can vary, but the bad thing is this test engineer don't ask a question. What is happen next? How the users will use it? And maybe this test engineer can help on further iterations, on further phases of the development of the software. But in fact, test engineer test engineer did not ask such kind of questions. So as a result, what we have in the industry, in my opinion, of course, um, right now, a lot of test engineers, a lot of QA engineers can't prove their value, their usefulness for the team, because um, they're just making the tests, executing the tests, providing some results, and actually you can just get this QA engineer from the team, substitute it from somewhere from the street, and the results in most cases will be the same in terms of like the uh, team view on the testing. So a lot of test engineers and QA engineers actually are demotivated by um, such attitude. And as we have a demotivation, we have a lot of QA engineers that actually want to leave the testing industry at all. They just want to switch to developer, or they want to switch, for example, to the manager role or something else. Of course, it is a step, uh, next step in the career. It can be the next step in the career, but in my opinion, it is a next step if you are making it consciously. If you are making this decision, like you are preparing yourself to such movement. It can be like a thing that, hey, I'm not successful, or I'm demotivating, demotivated on this role, then I just switch it. I don't want to fight about it. And as a result, we have a lack of experienced test engineers in the industry with successful success cases, how they transform, for example, the process, how they build the tools, uh, how they, for example, create really scientific research papers regarding testing, or even or they create sophisticated tools. There is a really tiny little amount of people who drives this industry right now, but comparing to the developer world or software development engineering world, it is only a tiny little fraction of such people. So if the industry, if the testers, even in your local community, they don't see the success cases, then of course the whole industry, the testers, will continue to think that QA engineer or test engineering is actually not technical job or low qualified job or everybody's job. Like I mean, for everybody without any skills required. So this is like a cycle that I see, and in this cycle, the only thing that we can do, of course, I'm only saying can. We don't. I don't see the word must here. But what we can do is actually become more technical um, engineers and provide these success cases to break the cycle. So, what exactly can we do in this situation? The first, as we described before, you are responsible for your personal development. You need to create your personal development plan, or at least, for example, it can be like a mind map of your skills that you want to achieve or improve. And for each skill, for example, like programming or your business knowledge, or for example, DevOps or anything else, for each of these, like a branch of the skills, you need to specify, for example, which books do you want to read, which projects do you want to create, um, which courses do you want to like pass, and actually how all of these skills in the ideal and in most useful situation, all of these skills should bring the value not only for you but for your particular team. uh, Not all those skills will bring the value just right away, of course, but at least if you are not just learning just in case of learning, but you are learning the skill and then practicing the skill in your day-to-day work, in this particular case, um, you'll get the most results. So you will get results for your team, and you practice and you memorize the whole of the things that you learn just by practicing. Next thing is general advice for any test engineer. You can and you should learn how to code. I don't mean here that you need to code like a developer on the various types of languages like functional programming language or object-oriented languages, like have like 10 programming languages under your belt, but at least choose one or two languages. And for example, like one can be a scripting language, and actually the knowledge um, can bring you a new ideas how you can apply this knowledge and this scripting, for example, to your day-to-day activities, how you can automate your routine tasks. For example, if every day you are just um, collecting some amount of data or some amount of test results and sending it manually to your manager and to your team with some calculations. You can think about how you can create a script that can do it automatically. So the script can pull out the test results, search through the data, get the most valuable data for the team, prepare, for example, email message or message in your the messenger that you are using, and um, publish this message every day. So you can spend the for creating a script, you can spend like 10 or 10 minutes, or you can spend like a couple of days, but then you don't need to spend a time just for every day for providing these routine details. It will be a script. And the same thing is for if you know the language, the programming language that is used by your developer or developers in your team, you can speak on the language of developer. And by speaking on the language and on the one language, you can um, discuss the issues or the bugs more precisely, and also you can actually build your credibility in the team. And the credibility in the team for test engineer the most crucial thing, because if everybody thinks that you are low qualified, mm, everyone will, in most cases, they will either ignore the things that you say, or they just, um, for example, check your suggestions in the lowest priority, just because everybody thinks that you don't know what you are saying. Of course, it is extreme case, but anyway, like it can be. Also, my advice is you need to dig deep into the technologies and architecture. And actually, by technologies, it can be like the tools that you use for your continuous deployment. It can be the tools that actually are the frameworks that your developers is using. It can be even the tools that you are producing. For example, you are creating a product that is used by other developers, that you need to know how to use these technologies and how they work internally. And the more the more you know about internal things, the better. The same goes to architecture of the application. And actually, if you have your testing skills and testing mindset, if you have a knowledge about how things works and knowledge about architecture, you can participate in the design session for a new component, and then you can provide and think even on these design meetings. You can think how the things or new things can be broken just before any line of code ever written for this component. You, by asking questions, and especially the most valuable question here is what if this part of our integration will fail, how this component can fail, what we can do to mitigate this risk. So like in most cases, one of the uh, thing that QA engineer and test engineer should care about is risks. What is risks about this particular component, and how we can mitigate it, and how we can minimize this risk. And if you are in test automation and you are creating, for example, a libraries or test automation solution, no matter who will be the users of your solution, it can be only you, it can be your fellow colleagues, it can be developers, or even it can be engineers, like in other teams. Always ask yourself, who will use the result of my work? And by asking these questions, you can actually um, you can optimize and you can improve your solution, make it more user friendly, but user friendly for a particular user. For example, if only people that will use your automation solution is test engineers without automation skills, maybe it worth to introduce some amount of Gherkin language or BDD to describe in text, to describe the tests. So after you create a solution, even the engineer without programming skills can contribute and can extend your coverage by writing a tests in a simple text. But or for example, if your users are just your managers, you need to concentrate on providing a more valuable reports, not just great code, but the reports that manager can understand and can use information from this report. Of course, you need to learn the internals of your application, and you need to learn um, the business value and how users use your application. Ask your support guys, ask your product owners or product managers how they get the ideas um, of new features. For example, you can participate in the user sessions when they just use your new versions of applications, and provide some feedbacks, so you can learn the feedbacks. If you are creating a product, for example, like a B2C product, then you can go to the um, to the forum of your product and see what questions users ask, what their impressions of the product itself. And by asking questions, the user actually can explain you what are the struggles, and maybe it can bring you to the areas that is actually have low test coverage, or the parts of your application that are not tested at all. That's actually all from my side that I want to say. So there are the problems and solutions that I see. Um, if you have any questions, please please ask the questions. I'm really eager to answer.
Well, Alexander, thank you very much for accepting the invite and for the great presentation. I really enjoyed it. I encourage everyone to write or just unmute yourself and ask questions. And meanwhile, I will ask questions that I have during this uh, presentation. So you mentioned that people in testing struggle with the solutions that are made for short time, and they will not work after a while. And the question is, as we live in agile world, we work in some startups, everything is changing all the time. How to understand that it's time to build something more like long-term solution and invest time in it, or we can just simply make some very I would say
Yeah,
stupid things just for a while and move on.
yeah. So thank you a lot for the question. So actually, the answer of the question, like particular answer for the question, uh, you can find in the really nice book. It's called Leading Quality. It's not like a huge book, and in this book, the authors say that um, there are a few types of maturity of the products, like stages, and at each stage of the project, you should implement the solution for this particular type of stage, and the process. So, for example, if you see that you are joining and you are on the startup stage, and you are just, for example, making a lot of assumptions, and you are just only discovering the niche for your product, so you are changing a lot every day. Of course, it is not worth to create even a good, not ideal, but a good automation solution that will last for a year or so, because after 1 year in the startup, you actually can get a completely different product in the end. But if you join the company that understands it, they already have like mm, user base, some amount of users. They have a vision and strict vision, and they just need to implement this vision. And they understand how the product look like right now, and how the product will look like in half a year or year. And at this stage, in my opinion, also you can think about implementing something more robust, other than just making only manual testing or quick testing, or using only the tools to provide the quickest feedback that is possible.
Got your point. Thank you. And the other question is regarding getting the knowledge about programming and languages. There are like tons of different languages, and let's say person doesn't know from where to start, and let's say the person is already working as manual QA engineer. So can you suggest like how to choose the first language or what to pay attention for?
Actually, the in terms of testing and in terms of, for example, automation, the best approach from the scratch is to learn the language that your fellow colleague developers are using, because they can, for example, if you are creating automation solution or even simple test in Java, you can ask some Java related question to your developer and get the answer. But if you are, for example, creating solution on JavaScript, but all of your developers are using only Java, mm, you can't get a valuable explanation or valuable answer. And of course, the projects are different. In some cases, you may have, for example, um, you can be a manual tester, for example, for a video game company, or you're making video games. And in many video games right now, the backend of the game or the engine of the game is implemented either on C++ or C Sharp using Unity, but C++ is a more like a general usage language. And actually, uh, like learning C++ from the scratch, it can, for a person that doesn't have any experience at
It
all.
can
uh,
hurt.
yeah, it can hurt. Actually, I have this experience because in the university, one of the main first languages that I learned or tried to learn was C++. And actually, after like a year of learning, I just thought that I never will program at all, because uh, I don't get it at all. But actually, it happened, like it turns out that it was like the way how they taught the language, and actually it is the first language. So for the first language, my suggestion can be Python, because it's very like user friendly, simple syntax, and you can get results also just right away. You can go to the widespread language like Java or JavaScript, but JavaScript is not like, um, it is easy to get a first like a tiny little experience and tiny little results in JavaScript. For example, like printing something in the console in your browser. But if you are like thinking about implementing an automation, a robust automation, from for the beginner, JavaScript may seems a little bit of unlogic, like not so logic language. It is also only my opinion. So it should be like a Java or Python. And actually, you can choose any course. For example, start with the course or the book. From the books, I can recommend the Head First series from the publisher O'Reilly. It has Head First Java, it has Head First Python, and actually, these types of books are written uh, especially for the people that comes from different backgrounds. It has a lot of like explanations with a lot of pictures, and actually, uh, when I suggested like these kind of books to a person even without any technical experience or technical background, I know a lot of examples that after that books and after, of course, further learning, such people become a developer or test automations, and they right now they work in a big companies worldwide. So just start with these books.
Okay, great. So, guys, maybe someone wants to ask a question using the mic. You can unmute yourself and ask it now, because I don't want you to feel like alone with me only. I have more questions, but I would prefer someone from our audience also to be part of the discussion. Guys, don't be afraid. or you can just drop your question in the chat that we have in Zoom. Okay, if no one, I will ask my next question.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So I also feel the pain you described in this presentation, and one of the most annoying thing for me is when you want to hire a QA engineer with good technical and programming skills, you may end up that a person has like 10 years or 15 years of experience, but as you told, the basic level is very low. And I don't understand the reason why it works like that, because from my perspective, again, you have an example, even if you're interested only in career and getting more money, you should be very motivated to get these technical skills because you will be more highly paid. But I don't see the rush for programming courses or something like that from QA community, and it's really like not mm, not logical from my point of view. What do you think about it?
Um, yeah, I completely agree that there are a lot of candidates with a lot of years of experience that can't do a work, and their knowledge is on a very like initial step or don't enough simply for um, for a good technical job. But from my perspective, there are a lot of people in the testing industry. We are all different, and for all of us, the motivation is different. So someone is motivated only by just improving their technical skills and getting more money. It is one way of motivation. The second way is of for or second like thing that can motivate people. It can be like a job security. So they got to the point when they know everything on the project, they know the processes, and the salary is good enough for 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 this amount of like for this period of time, and then such people just enjoy the day-to-day work, or maybe they even use the technical work or testing work or development work just to get the paycheck and do more interesting stuff after the work. So, so in this particular case, they only do the things that need to do at work, and it is completely okay. So such people have other interests. But in the case if you are that you are struggling with, that you have a lot of candidates that lack a lot of skills, um, you can fight with this situation or improve this situation in one or, or many ways. So one way, if you hire someone and if you want to attract people who have experience, you can build a technical technical brand for your company, technical brand even for your test department. So provided talks and various events, and explain how the things and technical things and are going in your project, or what cool stuff you are doing in your company, and by giving such talks, you can attract maybe not like super senior engineer, but at least middle engineer who wants to learn from you, who wants to progress with you. Of course, it also depends on your particular project. Some projects are on NDA and they don't want to talk about it, but actually you can communicate with your manager or with your customer and get at least approval for talking about technical things that you do, or the tools or new things that you are applying in the job, without any particular numbers, without any even mentioning the project, just providing technical things. So this is one way how to attract good candidates. The other way, of course, is providing like a best possible um, salary on the market, like way above the market. uh, it can attract some people who actually want to get a lot of money. So it's two things that can be done.
Thank you for the answer. And I just may add one more thing. Uh, I see many people, when they have more or less good job, they start uh, live in this comfort position without learning any new technologies, and basically they may lose like attractiveness on the market. Let's say I'm a person who joined a team after 3 years of experience, let's say, and I'm working in the company for 5 years on one project. So it may lead to situation when you are part of the team, you can deal with your daily routine, but you don't go any like new way to learn or to challenge yourself. And I just want to suggest, if you feel that you don't learn anything for, let's say, 6 months or so, it's a bad sign. You should maybe change the project, maybe change the job, I don't know, but it's a trap from my perspective.
Yeah, there should be like a meme from the Star Wars with this guy that says it's a trap.
I
Yeah.
didn't know about it, but yeah, I'm
Actually,
talking about. Sorry, yeah.
yeah, one thing that I can add to what you say just right now is it is totally okay to people to be in their comfort zone. It is totally okay. But if you so you described it a way how you can learn, so you can learn switch a project or switch a company. But I can suggest another way you can learn more about your like technical internals of your product, about the development, and maybe perform some tasks from the developer. Or you can learn how your product or piece of software is deployed, and get some skills in the DevOps. Or you can get some product knowledge and work closely with the product manager. So there are a lot of things you can learn, a lot of aspects, and all of these aspects can influence your way of testing and way of quality.
Yes, I agree, and I like the idea about the going DevOps, because this part is perfectly fits the tester position in the team, because you still need uh, procedures and quality during all this life cycle of your application. And I
Yeah,
think testers are great in the position, like not to be DevOps of the company, but to contribute to DevOps in the team.
yeah, yeah, totally.